Nobody could imagine anything like this would ever have happened. But it happened. I've been given a unified family that has supported me and loved me.
At 66, the legendary Andrea Bocelli has finally broken his silence, and what he's revealed has left the world utterly speechless. Known for his soul-stirring voice and graceful presence, Bocelli has long kept certain truths hidden behind the music. But now, in a moment both vulnerable and powerful, he's opening up like never before. What drove him to speak out after all these years? What secret has he carried in silence? Prepare to be moved, because this revelation reshapes everything we thought we knew about the man behind the voice. From humble beginnings to global music royalty. When Andrea Bocelli first stood beside the great Luciano Pavarotti, few could have predicted how fast his life would change. That one collaboration lit a fire that would soon blaze across the globe. It wasn't just a career breakthrough, it was the birth of a phenomenon. In the years that followed, Bocelli's powerful tenor voice would not only fill the world's grandest stages, but also redefine what classical music could mean in the modern world. Yet, it wasn't until the 1990s that the world truly began to take notice. His duet with Sarah Brightman, Time to Say Goodbye, released in 1996, skyrocketed to the top of the charts, particularly in Germany, where it held the #1 spot for a record-breaking 14 consecutive weeks, selling over 3 million copies there alone. It was the kind of success that most artists only dream of, and it was only the beginning. By 1997, his album Romanza had become a global sensation, selling an estimated 20 million copies worldwide. It remains one of the best-selling albums of all time and the highest-selling release by an Italian artist. 2 years later, in 1999, Sogno and Sacred Arias each sold over 5 million copies, further solidifying their place at the top of the classical music world. Sacred Arias would go on to become the best-selling classical album by a solo artist in history. Bocelli's ability to bridge classical and pop genres brought him a uniquely diverse audience. His 2009 holiday release, My Christmas, became the best-selling holiday album that year, moving over 4 million copies. Along the way, he has collaborated with global stars like Celine Dion, Ed Sheeran, Jennifer Lopez, Ariana Grande, and Christina Aguilera, each partnership drawing in new fans and expanding his reach beyond traditional boundaries. In a career that spans more than 3 decades, Bocelli has released 17 solo studio albums, 9 full operas, and countless live and compilation recordings. His performances are equally legendary. From singing at the Olympic Games and the World Cup to gracing the stage at the Vatican and the White House, Bocelli has made music history at nearly every major international event. Even as the world changed, Bocelli adapted. His 2020 livestream concert, Believe in Christmas, became the most successful classical music livestream ever, selling over 70,000 virtual tickets to fans in 120 countries. In 2018, his album See made history by reaching #1 on both the UK Albums Chart and the US Billboard 200, a rare feat for a classical album and the first time this had happened in over 2 decades. All of this success has helped build a musical empire. With more than 90 million records sold and countless sold-out performances across the globe, Bocelli's estimated net worth has reached $100 million. His 2022 global recording deal with Universal Music Group proves his star continues to rise, even after 30 years in the spotlight. Bocelli's influence extends beyond numbers and charts. His voice, at once intimate and epic, has connected deeply with people across every background, from world leaders and royals to pop fans and opera purists alike. But what drives a global icon to rewrite his legacy with quiet impact instead of roaring applause? Stay glued to your screen. The voice that taught the world to see. And as the world leaned in, listening to his vision as intently as his voice, Andrea Bocelli continued to redefine what legacy truly means. At an age when most would rest, he was just beginning a new chapter. One shaped not by applause, but by impact. His foundation's School for Blind Children, planned for Tuscany, was not just a project. It was the echo of a life lived in music, hardship, and purpose. But this wasn't the first time Bocelli had used his influence to champion meaningful change. Long before the announcement of the school, Bocelli had quietly been shaping lives behind the scenes. Since its founding in 2011, the Andrea Bocelli Foundation has worked in some of the world's most vulnerable communities. Rebuilding schools in Haiti after the devastating 2010 earthquake, providing education and healthcare access to children, and funding scientific research. The mission has always been clear: empower people and communities through education, opportunity, and the transformative power of music. In September 2016, one such initiative came to life when the foundation unveiled a fully restored school in Muccia, Italy, after an earthquake had ravaged the region. That same year, Bocelli headlined the Voices of Haiti concert at the United Nations in New York City, where 60 children from Andrea Bocelli Foundation programs performed with him. An unforgettable moment that proved music's power to uplift and unite. But it was the COVID-19 pandemic that highlighted Bocelli's heart most clearly to the world. On Easter Sunday, April 12, 2020, he stepped inside an empty Duomo Cathedral in Milan to deliver a performance titled Music for Hope. With only a church organ and silence as his accompaniment, Bocelli sang to the world in lockdown. The live stream shattered records, reaching more than 2.8 million viewers at its peak, and now stands among the most watched classical music performances in history. It wasn't fame he chased that day. It was connection. At a time when fear and uncertainty held the world in its grip, his voice carried something beyond sound. In that quiet cathedral, he gave people courage. This courage, this hope, continues to ripple through every note he sings and every cause he supports. In 2022, Bocelli reminded the world once again that music is not just entertainment. It's a lifeline. With the release of A Family Christmas, he wasn't just singing with his children, he was modeling what it means to pass love, tradition, and legacy from one generation to the next. And now, through the Music School for the Blind, he's reaching into the future. Not with nostalgia, but with purpose. For children who, like him, were born into darkness, he is building a bridge of melody toward something bright. The first notes of that vision are already forming in Tuscany, where the story began decades ago with a piano, a dream, and a boy who refused to be silenced. To understand the full power of his journey, we must return to the very beginning, where Andrea Bocelli's song first began, not on a stage, but in the silence of struggle. The fire that lit the music. To understand the light Andrea Bocelli now shares so freely, we must journey back to where the shadows first fell. Born on September 22, 1958, in the quiet countryside village of Lajatico in Tuscany, Italy, Andrea came into the world with a rare burden few could fathom. He was just a small boy when his parents were told he had congenital glaucoma, a condition so uncommon it affects only about 1 in 10,000 children. From the very start, Andrea's childhood was a delicate dance between hope and heartbreak. Instead of playgrounds and carefree days, young Andrea spent his early years surrounded by the sterile walls of hospitals. The family traveled constantly, seeking treatments, hoping for miracles. He underwent numerous operations in an attempt to preserve the fragile vision that remained in his right eye. But even when the odds seemed bleak, the Bocelli family never stopped believing. His parents, moved by endless love and fierce determination, did everything possible to shield him from despair. Still, each setback, each unsuccessful treatment, brought with it a storm of sadness they couldn't protect him from. And yet, despite it all, Andrea did not break. The world may have dimmed before his eyes, but the fire in his spirit burned brighter than ever. Then came the moment that would change everything irreversibly. He was just 12 years old. It was a day like any other, spent playing soccer with friends when a ball struck his only seeing eye with full force. The impact caused a brain hemorrhage so severe that it plunged him into complete darkness, total blindness. Gone was the last flicker of light he had clung to for so long. In his memoir, The Music of Silence, Andrea recounts that devastating moment. I was hit very hard in my right eye, the only eye in which I could still see light. Then total darkness enveloped me. The pain was not just physical. It was the emotional earthquake of losing something so fundamental, his connection to the visible world. For a child, it was more than just the end of sight. It was the beginning of a different life. And yet, even in that new world of shadows, he refused to be consumed by despair. Music soon became his light, his guide, and his salvation. He learned to read Braille and studied music with a quiet intensity that could be felt in every note he played. Andrea didn't just listen to melodies, he felt them. Each chord was a step away from sorrow, each harmony a form of healing. The piano became his safe place, not just a source of sound, but a silent teacher that helped him rediscover the shape of hope. He didn't stop there. Andrea embraced life with a boldness that shocked those around him. Blindness never meant limitation. He rode horses, cycled through the countryside, and took part in sports with a daring sense of independence. These weren't acts of rebellion. They were declarations that the darkness hadn't won. Even as his fame grew, his heart stayed rooted in these early years. He has often said that his family is the soul of his strength. Though the world knows Andrea Bocelli as a legend, those closest to him know him as a man of quiet determination, shaped not by the spotlight, but by struggle. But what gave Andrea the strength to chase stardom through silence and struggle? Stay tuned to find out. The harmony at home and alive. Composed with love. What transforms a life of hardship into a melody the world never forgets? For Andrea Bocelli, the answer lies not only in music, but in love, steady, genuine, and everlasting. After a life filled with soaring performances and personal battles, Bocelli found one of his greatest triumphs not on the grand stages of the world, but in the quiet warmth of family. In 2014, after years of companionship, Andrea Bocelli married Veronica Berti in a heartfelt ceremony that marked more than a union. It celebrated an enduring partnership in both life and art. Veronica, a music producer and Bocelli's manager, had been at his side through countless milestones. But their journey together took on an even deeper meaning with the birth of their daughter, Virginia, in 2012. Andrea, then in his mid-50s, embraced fatherhood once again with a renewed sense of wonder. Little Virginia became not only a source of joy, but a spark of inspiration that lit up his later works. This inspiration echoed beautifully in A Family Christmas, the album the Bocelli family released in late 2022. On it, Andrea, Veronica, their daughter Virginia, and their older son Matteo all united their voices to craft a holiday masterpiece that felt more like a love letter than a recording. The sweet clarity of Virginia's youthful voice alongside her father's rich tenor and Matteo's smooth tone created a sound that resonated far beyond festive spirit. It was a testament to unity. Through each track, the album offered listeners a window into a home where music and love are inseparable. Virginia's birth brought new light into Andrea's world, but Matteo had already carried the flame of music forward. Born in 1997 to Andrea's first wife, Enrica Cenzatti, Matteo has followed closely in his father's footsteps, developing a distinctive voice and a promising career of his own. The father-son duo has since performed together at high-profile concerts, capturing hearts with their shared passion and undeniable harmony. Their voices, blending classical grace with modern soul, symbolize not just inherited talent, but a bond formed through time, mentorship, and mutual respect. For Andrea, guiding his children through the world of music is more than a duty. It is his joy. He is their father, yes, but also their mentor, their collaborator, their steady hand. Whether composing at home, recording in studios, or performing on world stages, the connection between Andrea and his children radiates warmth, trust, and an unspoken understanding that only family can offer. Yet even as he continues to tour and create, Bocelli's heart remains firmly anchored in service. In founding the Andrea Bocelli Foundation, he turned his own story into hope for others, particularly for blind children who, like him, face a world not made with them in mind. Through the Andrea Bocelli Foundation, he has built schools, launched music programs, and introduced tools that allow visually impaired children not just to hear music, but feel it. For Andrea, blindness is not a prison but a different kind of path, one that can still lead to brilliance with enough encouragement and support. In every project, whether artistic or charitable, Veronica and his children are not only by his side, but are part of the very essence of what he creates. And so, the question lingered in the minds of many. How does a man who can't see continue to show the world so much light? The answer lies not only in his music, but in the powerful story he dared to tell. The voice. Behind the silence. In 1999, Andrea Bocelli opened a window into his life with the release of his deeply personal memoir, The Music of Silence. But instead of narrating the journey in his own voice, he crafted it through the eyes of Amos Bardi, a fictional character shaped by the same wounds, dreams, and fire that had shaped Bocelli himself. This literary decision was no accident. Amos was not merely an alter ego. He was a symbol of universality. In him, readers saw not just the reflection of Bocelli's struggles with blindness and his discovery of music, but the broader human story of persistence. The pages carried the rhythm of real pain and quiet triumphs. From childhood operations to the moment music first lit up his darkened world, every chapter throbbed with authenticity. It wasn't just a biography. It was a lyrical, emotional confession, told not with bitterness, but with grace. The Music of Silence didn't just sit on shelves. It made its way into hearts. Readers from across the world, many of whom had never heard opera before, found themselves moved by a story that wasn't really about music, but about resilience, love, and the unseen forces that carry us forward. In 2017, the memoir took on a new life as it was transformed into a film of the same name, directed by Michael Radford. With Toby Sebastian playing the role of Bocelli as Amos, the movie offered a more vivid glimpse into the artist's internal and external battles. But it didn't wallow in sorrow. It shone a light on courage. One of the most stirring moments in the film is a scene where Amos, blind but unfazed, rides a horse to his own music. That image, man, movement, and melody became more than just cinema. It became a metaphor. Bocelli's life, after all, is not defined by what he lost, but by what he chose to create from it. The film did not aim to draw tears, it aimed to awaken strength, and in doing so, it avoided the trap of casting Bocelli as a tragic figure. Instead, it revealed a spirit that refused to bend, a man who embraced every limitation as a new canvas. "I never considered my blindness as a disability," Bocelli once said. "It is not something that defines me." That sentence, quiet as it may sound, echoes like a song of freedom. Through both book and film, Andrea Bocelli managed to do something rare. He turned his story into a beacon, not just for the blind, not just for musicians, but for anyone who has ever felt held back by life. It was a song that asked for no sympathy, only that we listen. And in listening, millions found courage tucked between the silences. But what if blindness wasn't a limitation, but a lens to something greater? The answer may just change everything. Seeing through sound. And so, with every note he sings, Andrea Bocelli reminds us that vision isn't always tied to sight. Where others rely on their eyes, he leans into something deeper, his soul. Music for him is not just art, it is how he reaches out, how he explores a world he cannot see but still fully experiences. He once said, "I see nothing with my eyes, but I see everything with my soul," and that truth resonates far beyond the concert halls he fills. Born in Lajatico, Tuscany, in 1958, Bocelli turned what could have been a life of limitations into a legacy of inspiration. His blindness has never been a barrier. It became the backdrop against which his inner vision grew stronger. In every performance, every recording, there's something beyond the melody, a quiet defiance, a spirit that refuses to be defined by what is missing. Audiences don't just listen to Bocelli. They feel him. His voice, rich with warmth and conviction, transcends language, reaching hearts across the world. Even those who don't understand the lyrics are moved. Through music, Bocelli teaches us to listen beyond words, to hear with our souls, and to feel life generally in ways deeper than touch. His journey, shaped by hardship but propelled by unwavering hope, has become a guiding light for millions around the world. When people watch him perform, they don't see a blind man on stage. They see an artist who has never stopped pushing the boundaries of possibility. His impact extends far beyond opera houses and concert arenas. It lives on in classrooms, in hearts, and through foundations he passionately supports. One of his most profound contributions is a free music school for blind children. What inspired this vision? Perhaps it was empathy, perhaps compassion, or maybe it was simply his deep-rooted belief that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, deserves the chance to find their voice and to never be left without a song to sing. But what do you think drives a man who can't see the world to help others find their voice through music? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.